it says a lot that with what everybody is going through and how fast people are awakening because of what we're seeing every day, but their backs against a wall. They don't have a choice because we're not falling for this anymore. It feels like the Charlie Kirk thing was such a huge swing in terms of those very few people who are losing their control that they have had for eons. They have had this control for longer than our imaginations can stretch, and they're losing it. And right now, it just feels like they're just throwing everything at it. And Charlie was part of that. And especially considering the technology that I can imagine that they have to do predictive analysis, it's so obvious. All systems point to what is really hard to fathom, but it's like that makes the most sense. It actually makes the most sense. There's no other explanation.
Hey guys, I'm Aubrey. On this show, we explore the intersection of mysticism, technology, art, and transpersonal experience. I'm an entrepreneur, author, and cosmic advisor, covering human consciousness and the larger forces shaping our collective destiny. Welcome to The Infinite Drop. We are back. It's been a little while since I've had a guest. I'm so excited today. I have Kara Goodwin here. She is the host of the Soul Elevation podcast, where she explores ascension, spiritual awakening, energy healing, extraterrestrial connections, and consciousness. And as a skilled energy healer and meditation guide, Kara empowers other people to deepen their spiritual connection through transformative practices. Her debut book, Your Authentic Awakening, A Guide to Everyday Spiritual Living, provides a roadmap to embracing a spiritually awakened and authentic life. And through her work, Kara inspires other people to elevate their souls and align with their highest potential. Kara, welcome to The Infinite Drop.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really been looking forward to this, and I can't wait to see this co-creation. One of many, I think.
One of many. I have the same feeling. Thank you for being here. I'm really glad that we were connected. I would normally start out by asking a little bit about somebody's background and kind of how they got into things, but I want to move through today in a little bit of a different way. This past week has just been very impactful. Let's put it that way. A lot has happened. I'm referring, of course, to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it's just been, I almost can't even say it without crying. It's just been incredibly heavy. And I've experienced a feeling in the collective that I've never really experienced in my lifetime. And that includes situations like September 11th and other big events that sort of captivated the world. And I've just felt this charge and this sensation like something has been activated inside of me that like these tears, like it's almost this huge emotion. And of course it's Charlie and his family and everyone that's affected, but it's more than that. And it's coming from a deeper place. And I feel it and I notice it also being activated in with kind of everyone, it feels like, or a large part of the population globally. And it feels like it's connected to something that's been stirring and moving for decades. I'd probably say over the last 6 or 7 years, I've noticed an increase in like conscious awareness in both myself and kind of everyone out there. But with this situation, it seems like everyone's sort of being called more into this space that you and I are in pretty deeply in our day-to-day lives. And I just love to hear what you think and how you've been feeling, because I sort of feel like these predestined missions have almost been activated inside each of us in a really full way. And I kind of want to hear if you felt that, this sort of harbinger energy, like this next stage in the Great Awakening is coming online.
Yeah, what you're saying, first of all, gave me so many chills down my arms, but I also feel like I need to take this great big breath because that is kind of there is so much with it. And one of the ways that it's shown up for me is a sense of urgency, like a newer sense of urgency in terms of awakening. And what I mean by that is, I've been spiritual awakening has been part of my personal journey for many years now. I know it has been for you as well. And helping others along this path has been also part of my journey for a few years. And I've been very hands off almost in terms of wherever anybody is, it's okay, and if people are not wanting to explore or look at things from a spiritual lens, it's okay. And there's, it's sort of like it butters my bread, like that gives me purpose. And it's like this necessary thing that makes me feel so fulfilled. But I also honor and respect that that's not how everybody is. With everything that has happened in the last few days, it is as though that no longer really applies. And I'm still going to be who I am. I'm not going to be out there like, really forcing people to do anything. But I feel that I recognize this also in a reel that you put out on Instagram where you were like, I've been silenced. I've silenced myself. I've censored myself. I've kind of learned through experience to quiet down and keep my opinions to myself. And it's, to some extent, it falls in line with that, because it is kind of like I still honor and respect where everybody is. And I don't necessarily know that everybody will become spiritually activated through it. There might be a divine plan and design where some people lean more into spirituality and start to understand things from that framework, and others won't. And I can trust that too. But I feel that things were getting pulled in so many directions. And from a very practical standpoint, when we start to be able to cultivate a spiritual perspective and to work with our own energy and to tap into our center and hold balance, so that, yes, we're feeling, yes, we need to take a great big breath because we can feel that that is happening in the collective. And we need to show emotion. We need to not mask our emotion. We need to be human, but we also can be present, and we can be still, and we can be balanced. And people who have been working on themselves hold more energy and have access to more energy and influence the collective in subtle ways. We're not all on stage, having mass contact with people in the way of Charlie Kirk, for example. But from an energetic perspective, there are many people who are working more, what would look like more in the background, who are holding the field. And the ability to cultivate that centeredness, to be in the eye of the storm and recognize that, okay, there is a hurricane here. We feel it. We're in it, but we're in the eye. And then we're holding that field. And collectively, as we do this, as more people are able to do this, and then arc our energy together. So for me, that looks like being in meditation, perceiving myself as light, and really kind of getting into that as much as I can. And then visualizing this grid, this higher consciousness grid that is all around the planet. And if that is too etheric for anybody listening, you can just think of it as other hearts across this planet who are praying for the highest good.
Mm-hmm.
And that my light is arcing to other lights all over the country, all over the planet, non-embodied beings who are sending high frequency energy to light this grid up. And then that helps that density, all that shakiness, all that, everything that's getting stirred up and kicked up, that helps that to get that balance, to be absorbed into something higher. So I think that that's why I feel that urgency, where it's not so much like you're going to be left behind. Things are moving so fast. And if you don't jump ship, if you don't see things the way that I see things, you're going to be left behind. It's really about the invitation to say, for one thing, it can make more sense when you have a spiritual perspective. You can zoom out and to get a little bit of like, okay, well, I might see some other things at play with this, rather than just feel like things are hopeless, or we're being pulled around by the nose and we have no control, we have no authority, we're getting less and less power, whatever. It can be really easy to fall into that. And also understanding that it's very, very true from an energetic perspective that the ability to remain in that balance and hold the field. We assist in holding the field. We need more and more people who have the ability to do that, who cultivate the ability to do that, and who are willing to do that, and not just be in the minutia and be pulled around however the flavor of the day,
Yeah.
does what it does to make us do that.
I, man, I'm just sitting here. I'm absorbing what you're saying. I just can't say yes enough. Like holding the field. It's just like, I just get this, like, just emotion coming up because there are so many of us that have been practicing for so long to be able to hold the field. And it's like this. When I saw what happened, I was moved by all of the emotions. I think most people are feeling. I think there is a subset of the population that I think there's a lot of reasons why that may be happening, and that's for another episode. But I think the masses, the majority were feeling these huge feelings of grief and sadness and horror and empathy and sympathy and whatever you want to call it for what was happening, and feeling like, why is this happening? Like, why? And there's just this huge welling of emotion, and being able to, like you said, feel that and not become reactive. It's like feel that and be able to speak clear, and to be able to not speak and just hold the field. It's so critical. I was at a group retreat this weekend, the group of different practitioners and facilitators, people who are very experienced in holding the field in their respect, what they do. Everyone's doing something different, but it all ties to energy work. Some people are working with the fascia, some people are working in different dimensional realms. Some people are working in the physical body. And over the weekend, there's many things being discussed and moved through, and everyone's there to become even more capable of holding the field, and for more and more people, because the world clearly needs it. And there we can see from this event so many people starting to come online going, I didn't believe in anything, and now I have a feeling and I believe in something. And it's like, oh man, I don't think anyone in this space that we sort of work in expected that there would be a Harbinger event, then all of a sudden the floodgates would open, and it'd be like, I thought it would just continue to be a trickle effect and some momentum building, and somebody goes to a conference, and now it's like,
Tidal wave.
it's a wave. I got voice notes, I got messages from people I do and do not know after I posted one clip the day after the event, and people saying, thank you. I'm feeling I need to speak up. And so people are coming online, and I do feel I have a deep sense from the way I experience things that there was a sort of mission activation turned. I think it was a predestined event. I've looked into some of the systems I use, and there are extremely unlikely markers for Charlie in his birth chart. There are certain asteroids that indicate when death might occur and how it might occur. He has exact markers and exact positions. He was in certain time periods where I would warn a client, be careful. You're very close to the other side. Like there are indicators, point when I look at this, and all the things I've seen in my life before that seem, people are like, oh, that's a coincidence. I'm like, that's not a coincidence. Like there's no way to have that many things line up. For me, that is an indicator of an architecture, a plan, a system, a calculation, a number string coming together. And it's like the name of his organization. Whether you agree with his opinions or not, that's not what this is about. So I want you to try to open your mind or your heart further if you're feeling yourself close as I start to say his name or the organization he's involved with. It's not about, what we're talking about is not about him, his religion, his beliefs. What it's about is that this person, the organization that he started, that he created at, I believe, the age of 18, is called Turning Point. And to note what this situation has created a sort of turning point in the collective where people, in a way that they haven't before, seem to be going, enough is enough. And instead of going towards a large part towards anger and rage, it's going towards a deep point of reflection and opening up and feeling called, like you said, pulled into an energy that they cannot explain. And some of us can explain. What you're describing sounds like the feeling of being pulled into life force and something that we can't understand with our minds, but something we're connected to in other realms that I don't claim to know how to explain. I explore it. I ask questions. I talk to people who think they have a good idea about it. And that's all we can do. But the that holding the field this weekend, we practiced that in this retreat, and we didn't do it. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't like we said, oh, because of this, we're going to do this. As the weekend unfolded, we had a lot of really just powerful and heart-led men there. We had the women too, but it was a really nice balance. And just to be able to feel true, strong, masculine presence that can hold a field, and the masculine can hold a field, and it's just like a grounding rod. And then to allow the women there to be able to express in a higher capacity, and them to not even be moved, like budge, and to feel that interplay, and for all of us to be able to work through what we needed to. That was so important this weekend. And there was some conversation, but also a felt knowing, all of us, like we've been training. It kind of feels like we've been training for a while, and someone, somewhere, something far away said, game on. Not a week from now, not a month. The training's done.
Yeah.
And I could just, it's so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming to feel, but I hold it. I'm like, okay. And I don't know exactly what that means, but I know that I have to be my best. And the people around me know we have to be our best. And that's the only way through what is happening right now.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. It makes me think too of, with you talking about, this isn't about his beliefs. It's about something much, much bigger. And I know you know this, but I didn't actually know who he was before it happened. So I kind of have the advantage of like totally clean slate. I get to look at it, and I don't have a lot of political mindedness anymore. I used to be very politically minded, but I have pulled my trust from from politics and from the news. So I don't engage. And so I didn't even know the name when somebody told me what had happened. But when I was listening to you talk to the Leo King, you posited something about discourse and the importance of us having an original thought. And what I understand from one of the big things that motivated him, Charlie, was that he would promote, like, think for yourself. Let's think for ourselves, and let's talk. Let's have a discussion, and let's not shut down just because somebody is bringing to us something that we don't agree with. And I love this so much. And I hope that something that comes from this tragedy is that people do start, and I do feel this. I don't know that I'm seeing a lot of reflection in it just yet, but it's still very early. But it does feel that this is really on the minds of a lot of people, the importance of really thinking for ourselves. And I love that you were talking about this back in the spring, of really encouraging people, don't just parrot, don't just be in the vacuum of what we're supposed to say, what we're supposed to think. A lot of the things that I'm passionate about current events wise right now, I'm not really sure if I used to know, like, which party line is this on? And, I've been called names for things that, I've posted that are current event related, that I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. I guess it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that right now. There's, I think his name is Taylor Betts or Taylor Katz. Sorry, Taylor, I'm getting your name wrong. I'll drop it in the show notes to get it right. But he made a post yesterday and I made a comment below it, and he's very activated in a good way. He's holding the field and really encouraging people like, come on, like now's the time. And I said something to the effect of like, through all the emotions I felt, the thing I felt the most was this overwhelming emotion that, the mission has been activated. And I used the heart emoji with the flames coming off of it. So an emoji showing like passion. And it could be a bot, it could be a person, I don't know. But they said, oh, are you just going to fight? And they named a country. They said, are you just going to fight this country all on your own? And I wrote back and I said, oh, that wasn't what I was referring to. And I put a heart. And then they came back and said, so you're just going to let the killers get away? What kind of mission is this? And I just wrote back, I didn't say that either. But if you're open to a conversation and curiosity and you'd like to know what I was referring to, I'm open to that conversation. And I put a heart. And I won't respond again. I have a feeling it's a bot. And when I would get a lot of kickback in years prior when I saw something that feels eerily similar to this, and turns out everything I was questioning actually was happening. It's like, so I stopped responding to that, and I will now, but it was more in my mind an exercise also of just modeling for other people. This is how you can invite people into curiosity in the off chance that this is a person, and I would actually feel compassion for them, that that's the level of where they're able to reason from. And so if they did respond in true curiosity, I would be happy to explain, oh, this was more of a feeling, but we're to a point where we don't, I posted something today, like it's a joke post, but it says marked safe from arguing with a bot on Instagram that's sucking my life force. So having people be conscious of like marked safe from believing everything I see on the news, like critical thinking. And this, I think, could be one of the things I am most passionate about in this life, always have been. I was like this in high school. I remember getting kicked out of my classroom one time because the teacher said something and I said, oh, well, it's not that, it's this. They said this. I said, can you explain what's happening? And they were just furious that I had even asked a question. They felt their ego was and I was more like, I don't understand. And can you help me understand? Because this seems pretty harmless, what's happening. And so I've always been that person to sort of say, hey, I'm kind of tracking in here and something isn't adding up. Like, and even if it's pretty obvious, and then a lot of people go, shh, 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 don't say that. Don't say. Why shouldn't I say that? It's my birthright. It makes sense. It's critical thinking. It's how we come to our own ideas. It's the base of creativity. It's how we keep ourselves free and safe from manipulation in all realms.
Right.
So I want to, from here, we're going to just pivot. I mean, you and I could just keep going on this. And I have some things I want to learn from you because you're into some things that I just am not as down the rabbit hole on. And I know you've just really gone there. So I want to hear a little bit more about, the first time we chatted, which was just last week. It seems like I've known you forever. And then we found out we're from the same town in the Midwest and we were in high school at the same time.
So crazy.
And from where we came from, it's like these ideas, at least I'll speak for myself, my experience. The things I talk about now, I'd never heard anybody saying them. I didn't see any books about this. There was no talk about any of the things we'll keep diving into on this episode. The closest it would come, I would say, is that my mom would take me, this maybe happened 5 times. Mom, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like maybe 5 times or less. She would take me to this metaphysical store, and I remember they had greeting cards with fairies and elves on the front. And I remember looking at like the pretty illustrations of like fairies and elves, and there was rocks and crystals and it smelled like incense. I thought, oh, this is cool. But it wasn't like she was taking me there to teach me anything. Like she maybe went in to get, a card for a friend or something. So makes me think about, you brought up Chris Bledsoe, and you brought him up last week, and I'll let you share more, but he's the guy that's been claiming for years that we're at this sort of precipice, this sort of major shift in human knowledge. And he says he's been getting information that this big kind of shift would happen. So I thought maybe you could kind of share a little bit about Chris. You kind of know a little more and maybe go in that direction.
He's so fascinating, and I find him fascinating. I know we both love the galactic stuff. So he wrote a book called UFO of God, and he's been seeing these spheres, these orbs. He sees them in the night sky. He can it's like he can summon them. He'll have people come out and watch with him, and he doesn't do, as far as I know, I don't think he does any sort of ritual or anything to get it to happen. He's this really humble guy who he had some land, and I'm making some of this up, but it's close. And he had an experience, I want to say he was on some kind of outdoor adventure with one of the people was his son. So, and all of a sudden, basically, he had a UFO experience. He thought that there was like the only thing that his mind could make of what he was seeing was he was like, why is the sun so close? And it was like moving kind of slowly. And then he like lost time. They were trying to drive away from it. And so he had this really bizarre, frightening, they were scared out of their minds. I don't think they were like telling a lot of people. Like the people that they did tell, they got shunned, they got made fun of. I think they got in touch with some major media cable company type of show, and they took their story and like basically made fun of them, like tried to
Mhm.
discredit them. So they had, I want to say it was a good 10 years of just going through hell, because not only were they having these experiences, because that was just the first one, but they continued to have them. And then they're being ridiculed. They've got kids in high school who are being, I mean, just imagine trying to go through something where the community has turned their back on you and you're in high school. Oh my God. And NASA got word of it. They had people from the government showing up. They've seen all kinds of crazy things. They start to understand that something else is happening, and it's not these beings are actually on their side. But where they are now is that people are very, very curious about this, and so they have turned this corner now. People that they're working with, even within the government, like are very supportive of them.
Yeah, like does he call her like the white lady or something?
So there's a lady in white, and so that's
Mhm.
where this is all leading to. So there was one Easter, if I remember, it's been a couple of years since I read the book and got into his story, but
Yeah.
I think it was on Easter morning, and he had this visitation by a spirit, and it was a woman in white, and she's the one who told him that on Easter Sunday, 2026, when Regulus will rise at dawn, when Regulus rises over the horizon, it will come through the paws of the Sphinx in Egypt. And I think there might be another astrological element to it that I'm forgetting, but that is signifying the new dawn or something
It's
profound.
just the major shift in human knowledge. He says what
Mm.
this being transmitted to him or let him know was look for when the star Regulus rises red through the paws of the Sphinx. Well, Regulus sits at 29 degrees Leo. And what's so
Leo
incredible about
being associated with what animal?
Leo, the lion.
The
Yeah, the
lion, and the
lion.
Sphinx is a what?
Yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
all so tied together. And interesting is that Regulus has always been at 29 degrees Leo and has moved into 0 degrees Virgo. So the shift is happening, it seems like. And what's incredible is that you've mentioned the Leo King a couple of times. He has been talking a lot in the past few months about interstellar object 3. It's called Atlas. And to our knowledge in human history, we've never had interstellar objects entering our solar system. And we've now had 3 come in since 2017. And the newest one, Atlas, was first detected in July of this year, although we know that it was actually in our solar system earlier. It came directly from the center of our galactic center, and I think it's somewhere around 27 degrees Sagittarius is that point. So it actually came in en route that way, but they thought at first NASA, JPL, all the big orgs thought it's a comet. And then we see that it's multicolored, looks a little bit like a DNA strand. It doesn't actually have a tail the way comets do. It's actually not in orbit with our sun. It came from above us, above our plane, and it's coming from the galactic center. And it is on track at this moment. There's a couple of big dates, but it's like October 29th or sometime in December. Atlas will pass over the star Regulus. It will actually leave, I believe, somewhere in the spring. And it's not, again, it's not from us, it's from somewhere else. And there are so many incredibly cool theories being strung together right now by all kinds of people, physicists, astronomers, NASA, astrologers, psychics, like people that tap into other dimensions. Like everyone has theories. But I remember watching Chris Bledsoe on Sean Ryan's show and thinking, I believe this guy. Like truth lands, right? Truth resonates. And this person has had an experience that you would never call upon yourself. He certainly hasn't had an easy life from it. He's been traumatized. It hasn't been easy. It's sort of like he didn't expect this. It's showing up on his property. The government's there all the time, like watching and waiting for it with him. He's not making a ton of money from it. So his story tracks. It doesn't track why he would make it up. And then to
Right.
have it line up with, you know, some of the preeminent polymaths on earth right now, like you look at Robert Edward Grant, they've been tracking in their own mathematical systems. Hey, when the star Regulus goes between the paws of the Sphinx, I mean, they've already been talking about this through their systems. Then you have an interstellar object coming, and it happened to enter from our galactic center, and we were unaware of it at first, but it was traveling and it went through an area of the sky that was part of the indication of what happened January 12th, 2020, when we heard the first news about Wuhan, China, and what was happening there. And so when you start to understand that all of these different, this isn't some random guy on a podcast that's like a nut job. It's like all of these very qualified people coming from very qualified, some of them, not all of them, but some from very qualified backgrounds and some just regular people, all pointing to the exact same thing. And then we have something like what happened this past week. It's horrific. And the name of his organization since he was 18, and everyone that knows him says he was so single-mindedly focused. You couldn't get this guy to do anything but focus on this from 18 years old. Probably before that too. He set up shop in his garage then. Called his organization Turning Point. And you see what happens at his death, and you see this ripple of energy going through the world as this object is coming. It gets so close to Earth, out of everywhere in the infinite universe that this thing could come from, and it's going to come directly from our galactic center, hit major points that other people are picking up on, and then skim right by Earth. To me, that is overwhelming evidence. And I don't know what other kind of, I don't know what it's for, right? But that is overwhelming evidence that something is a brew, and it's not small, it's big. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like now, whether people are aware of these little minute details, not minute, but you know, people like
The
you and I, we
finer
connect
kind of,
dots.
yes.
Yeah, it's the feeling. You can feel it, and all of us going in this world going, and through my system, I've noticed this, or, you know, with my group of friends, through my system, I've noticed this. And I think it's really fascinating. You had mentioned also you were at a CE5 protocol event and kind of combining Wim Hof breathing techniques with the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, Stephen Greer. So if you can maybe
Yeah.
kind of share that, because you hosted a galactic summit. So just kind of go into all of that, what you're doing.
Yeah, it was really fascinating. So I'm friends with Ruben Langdon, who does interview with Ed on Gaia, interview with Extra Dimensional, and so I just asked him, like, I keep hearing about the CE5, and I'd like to experience it. Do you know if there's a common place where people can go to find out? And he was like, well, I host them every new moon. Why don't you come out to California and do one, you know, with me? And I was like, okay. And it was really serendipitous because normally I wouldn't just be like, yeah, I'll come out for a new moon ceremony
Yeah.
where I have to fly to get there. But
Yeah.
one of my closest friends, she just so happened to have a work event that same time that was right next door to where he was going to be in Big Bear. Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind. This means that it's the human initiated ET contact. So there's like 1 through 5, and maybe there's more than that, but you know, one kind is like uninitiated human contact, where you see an object in the sky, but there's, you know, you just witness it. There's another, and one of the other numbers is like they're contacting humans, so humans are receiving the contact. And then there are a couple of more, and I can't remember now. But this one is like, okay, we're doing what we can to say, okay, we're communicating, we're sending out a signal. And so that just looked like a small group of us out in the on the mountain, on Big Bear Mountain, And there was like this beautiful sound bowl. Somebody was playing the crystal bowls. And the way that Ruben leads it, it's very much an inner journey. I kind of expected I'd be going there and there, maybe we would do like a meditation or whatever, but we'd be watching the sky a lot more. This was a lot of closed-eyed meditations. And I've subsequently done several others with Ruben in other settings. And one time there was a big group of us in Sedona, and there were some people who are guides in Sedona. Like that's their job. They take people on UFO watching things. So they were not really participating, but they were with us. And they're like, God, you guys missed a lot because we all had our eyes closed. And they're
Oh
like, we just kept
no.
wondering when you guys were going to open your eyes because there have been all these blinking things in the sky.
Yeah.
And so it's really
So
fascinating.
cool.
He takes us through, and like you said, the Wim Hof method of the pranayama breath work from
Mm-hmm.
Wim Hof, the Iceman. Ruben's very into that. So this is a very activating breath. And the way that Ruben likes to finish it is by on the last round, because you do these like you pull in a lot more oxygen and then you release like half of it. And you just keep doing that. You're pulling it in and releasing half, and you're building up all of this oxygen. And then you let out, like you do it several times, and then you let it out and you hold the out breath. And then you do a big in breath and you hold that, and then you start over. Well, on the last exhale, we were encouraged to do push-ups or to do something with the body because of I can't remember now what it does, like with the lactic acid, or, there's probably
Mm-hmm.
some cool like sciencey thing that I've forgotten. But I know that, so we'd done this breath work, and I think we'd already done the meditation. And so I do the push-ups and I sit up, because you're just doing as many push-ups as you can before you run out of breath. And you'd be amazed how many you can do. This morning I did like 24. I had to take a breath. So it's like crazy. But as I sat back up and I had my eyes closed still, I saw this. It looked like these thin golden lines that were making a shape that looked like an angular teardrop. Like you could see through it. So it was just these, what we would say like golden wires is what it kind of looked like, or golden rods that were longer at the top and they came together at the top. And then there were shorter on the bottom half and they came together at the bottom too. And what was wild about this is I had no context for what it was, but I started weeping when I saw it. I was overcome with emotion, which is not my MO. Not like more and more now I cry a lot easier than I used to. But it used to take a lot for me to cry. And my friend that was there has known me for a long, long time. We were roommates in college, in fact. And she was kind of like, are you okay? Like she knows that I'm just not like hugely expressive like that. And I was like, I just saw this thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm so moved, and I still don't know what it is, but it seemed to me that the intuition that I had was that it was connected with my soul. And it was a gift to be able to see it because I'm not like a hugely visual person. There are circumstances where my clairvoyance kicks in and then I'll see a lot all at once. But I'm not one of those people who is walking around and can turn it on and off, or there are a lot of people who express themselves that way. Mine's always more of like a knowing, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I know something, but I don't often see it. But this was so crystal clear, and I feel like like there's a technology element of it, but I can only guess like what that is.
Yeah.
And so the punchline of the whole experience is I've pretty much done the Wim Hof, every day and all those years since, to try to replicate this experience, because
Yeah.
I'm like, where are you? I want to see it again. I want to know more.
Right.
And it was so sneaky, that shape.
It's
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I've in my life, for me, I've kind of felt like I've had not anything like that, but I've had something that kind of sounds like that or rhymes with that story. And sometimes I wonder if it's just an activation to unlock a new level of awareness or to sort of reset what's in our mind's body energetic field to be able to hold more of the field or open up to make connections that we hadn't before. And I actually want to use this moment to kind of back up. I mean, we jumped right in, like we're just like, go, we got into this convo, and I'd love to back up a little bit and learn more about your background and the things that you're working on. Because this was literally how we spoke the first time we met. Like, I think we said our names, and then we were both for over an hour digital back and forth, and at the end we were like, whoa, like what just
Yeah.
happened? So super organic. But what you're describing sounds a little bit like sacred geometry, and I know that's something that you're really into and something you offer like workshops around. I think you might be writing a book about it right now. So how did you get into this world? Like, we came from a place where this wasn't like, we didn't grow up in like NorCal. It wasn't like
Yeah.
these things weren't being discussed. We didn't grow up in San Francisco. Like, we grew up in a place that's pretty just kind of like middle America, and like there's just, it's great. It's just not, these ideas weren't really floating around to my knowledge at that time in the
Mhm.
place we grew up. So how did you get
Yeah.
into this world? Was there a catalyst? And your first book, Your Authentic Awakening, and it's a guide to just like everyday things people can do. What was that journey? And then the thing you just described with the Wim Hof and the CE5 protocol, the vision of the golden strings, was that a sacred geometry object maybe?
Yeah, I love that. So my journey, really my proper awakening happened through some very traumatic things that happened pretty much all at once. My husband and I have two children. Also, we were living in Italy at the time. So the first couple of years, we were just enjoying life there. And I had gone from the corporate world. I'd been doing IT mostly for pharma companies and medical device companies. That was my industry. I worked for like a large consulting company. I had a very fast career, and my husband had a very fast career in terms of just a lot of opportunity, but it became the golden handcuffs. I was realizing it was too much, and I wanted to be there for my kids, but I felt very torn. It was what a lot of people struggle with. And so when this opportunity came for my husband's job that we could live in Italy, that was a saving grace in a lot of ways. I had to give up my career, at least for that time, but it was very welcome for me because it was like, I really want to be with my kids. And so anyway, we were there for a couple of years, and in like 7 months, it started with my sister-in-law taking her life, and she was one of my closest friends. 3 weeks after that, our dog died. Then my stepdad had surgery on his brain stem because his health was deteriorating rapidly. And luckily, he's doing well. My mother-in-law was hit by a motorbike as she crossed the street. So she was in the hospital recovering from that. And then my stepmom had heart disease. She had a heart virus for several years, and she was managing it really well, like blowing her doctors away with just diet and exercise. And then she just very rapidly went downhill. All of a sudden went into the ICU, top of the heart transplant list. And then what saved her was a heart transplant. So then she had that major operation and was in recovery for that for a long time. And all of that happening while we're abroad. So we really can't. My in-laws are in England. My family's here in the States. And so we couldn't really easily kind of even be with anybody as we're mourning and as we're trying to like help everybody. It was just very hard. And I through that, I sought out meditation just from like, I need to feel better. I need to feel calmer. I recognized that I was having some probably PTSD symptoms where the phone ringing at all I mean, terrifying is a bit strong, but I would be like, oh, it's bad
7
news
months
again.
to have this truncated in 7 months. I mean, yeah, every time the phone rings, you're like, what's happening?
So it literally was like every time, because I would tell myself, no, you're being silly. Just answer. It's okay that your dad's calling on a Thursday.
Mhm.
It's fine. He just misses you, or whatever. He wants to check in on you because everything else is going wrong. So just, don't be silly. Answer the phone. Well, I'm calling from the hospital, and it's like, you're kidding me. And
Yeah.
so it just, I had been drawn to meditation. It was kind of gaining, people were talking about it a little bit more and more. And I tried it here and there, but I'd never really been able to feel any effect from it or feel that knew what I was doing when I was doing it. But through this, I really felt like it was the type of thing that could help me if I would really dedicate myself to learn how to actually do it rather than just sit down and not think, which never worked for me. And so I got, I found a teacher, and that's a whole thing, but that's how I got into it. I got into meditation really just to calm myself and kept the
Mhm.
spiritual side of it out for a little while until I started kind of having things, seeing things in my own minds. I just like light descending through my body, perceiving that, feeling that, seeing it. And I'm like, whoa. And that felt so profound. One of the early things that I saw in my inner sight was a spiraling galaxy. It was a rotating
Mhm.
galaxy. And I had no frame of reference for why on earth anybody would see that, much less me. I wasn't even into sci fi movies. I wasn't like I appreciated the stars and the moon and when unusual things would happen in the sky, but I wasn't, in fact, I lived in like a medieval city. I couldn't even see much of the sky because that's one of the things when we moved back to the Midwest. It took me months. I was still commenting on how big the sky was. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, the sky is so big because your perception just, you see a slice of the sky and you don't even really notice that because you're just in these narrow streets all the time. And where I lived was famous for porticos. So you were covered.
Yep.
You could walk through most of the city and it was just covered all the time. So you really don't see the sky.
Mhm.
So the fact that I was still living there and there were times where I would feel like I was zoomed out looking at this spiraling galaxy and I'm like, why would I see that? Why would anybody see that? How could we see space from inside our mind? How can I see anything from inside my mind? And I had no, it took me for years. I didn't even know about star seeds. I didn't even believe in aliens. I didn't know that there was any connection to like spirituality and extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, any of that. Like I just didn't, it was a
Yeah.
whole world that had yet to open up to me. And of course, now looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, now in hindsight, it makes sense that one of the first things I would
Mhm.
see would be a rotating galaxy.
So you weren't like steeped in this growing up because we're from the same place, same kind of era.
Mhm.
And then you have this, you're seeing this spiral galaxy, and then things lead from there. You get curious, you wonder what that is, and then life starts unfolding. Tell me about your book and maybe what people who are curious about maybe this conversation is like, whoa, these ladies are talking about, like, what in the heck are they talking about? Or it could be, oh, whoa, cool, this is how I feel inside, or I think about this stuff. Is your book for beginners? Is it for people who are kind of steeped in this? Can anybody read it? And what does the book offer, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really, I've tried to keep it layered so that if you're new to things, you're going to be held because I even start by setting the foundation of like, here are some terms like, what do you mean when you're saying soul? How is that different than the higher self? Is this the
Right.
same as consciousness? Like, what is frequency? Frequency and vibration are used so interchangeably, but they are actually not the same thing. But what do I mean when I'm saying it? So it was really just a kind of level set so people didn't get into, well, I don't know what she means by soul because some people say soul is this, but and also saying higher self. So are those things different? All of that. And then I go into what is spiritual awakening in terms of we might hear that, we might think that we're going through it, but what are some of the reasons that we are disconnected? The whole premise of it is so many people are disconnected from their higher self, from their intuition, from their soul. They're living just at the material level. Why is that? Why? What are the things that get in our way from having that connection from the start? Like, why aren't we just connected if this is part of the natural architecture of who we are? So, talking about things like the role of the media in that and the role of our family and our ancestral line and schooling and just the
Yeah.
modern living that is not supporting that, at least for us in Western culture, and how that's actively working against us. We're immersed in this illusion that is depriving us of that connection because it's hiding it. It's not acknowledging it. It's kind of like, yeah, you can go and look at that if you want, but on your own time, and we're not going to acknowledge it in
Hmm.
as you move through
Hmm.
life in your regular everyday world. It's what can we do about that? So, okay, we know that we're severed from it, but what are some practical things that we can do in order to reconnect and to nurture it and to benefit from that? And so every chapter has a do it section at the end, so it kind of takes what we've talked about in the chapter and says, here's how to apply it. Here's some grounded things that you can do to help integrate this. And then I do get into some of the mystical aspects that I've experienced in terms of what I shared with you just now about the whole teardrop thing. I don't think that's in the book, but that type of thing, I've had experiences like that. And often there are what we know of as downloads that happen through that. So like what happened in the real world in my non-meditating life from that, where there are insights that I gained or understandings. I've had some pretty, I think they were pretty wild to me at the time, experiences such as being kind of in a void space where I'm not necessarily aware of having a body or anything, but it feels like being in space, pinpoints of
I've had
light.
had the I've had did you say points of light?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason I interject there, not to
Yeah.
interrupt your story,
Yeah.
but for people listening, the reason books like this are so important is because when you're starting out on the path, or no matter where you are on the path, starting in the middle, getting older, and you've experienced a lot, sometimes we can have these moments and feel like, did I make that up in my mind? Was that like, what was that? And to hear, like right now, hearing that she's been to this void, right when she said the void place, outer space, points of light, I'm like, I know exactly where that place is. I know exactly where that is. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. And then for me, it's another confirmation of like, that's a real place. It's
Yeah.
just, and I'd shared that experience with my sister that was very powerful. And she saw a painting one time that was painted to go along with one of Beethoven's symphonies. And it's a woman in a navy gown and it's going over the sky with points of light. And she looked at it and said, that sounds like your dream. And I have chills now. I was like,
Me too.
that's that's what it was. And then there's
Mm.
another book by another woman who channels under the name of Rasha. And the cover of her book, I noticed there's a navy blue ball gown with the points of light. And there's one little paragraph, and she says, once you fall into the cyclone, you will know and I had in this experience stepped through a cyclone and exploded into this place. And I was sober. This isn't like some kind of, oh, she's on. I was sober when this happened. And to have another person, I'm going, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like that is a real thing that people are experiencing.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love that you've written a book so that you're just like, hey, these are my experiences. This is what's helped me. I think it's really important. So I'll link to your book and I hope everyone can check it out. I'll link to Rasha's book is called Oneness as well. It's phenomenal, like just
Mm.
phenomenal channeling, cellular rewrite in the body as you read the words. And yeah, I think it's really important that more and more people talk about these experiences they're having, even if you're not sure, right? Because you could be
Yeah.
like, did I see that? Like the golden teardrop you saw, right? It's just really, I've realized over time, I think they are activation points.
Yeah.
And I think that perhaps we are in communication with other versions of ourselves or other beings, other qualities of light or energy on different frequencies. And this thing that we're in this life, like down here, like life here, is just, we're seeing and experiencing, and this is true, the science that most of us, subscribe to here on Earth, like the 3D science realm, will tell you like most of what we're in is dark matter, and we see and experience and can perceive and even calculate and think about just the smallest percentage. And so when these things happen, it feels like sort of either maybe it's by happenstance, an accident, and you kind of something opens in the light body and we get a peek into something that's beyond. And so we see similar things because that is the structure that we are actually maybe inside of, or the next layer or a layer. But the feelings I've been having just more and more, and I've had my whole life. I can't say my whole life. I could say for many, many years, like maybe it's 15 years, maybe it's around there. Personally, I have a feeling of being on a very specific mission that I cannot control, that I wish sometimes, a lot of times, was different. And that just as time goes on, more and more things happen, and there's more validation, verification. My feeling of it, that all signs point to this. It's like no matter what system I go to, no matter what practitioner, no matter what, it's like
Modality. Yeah.
modality. It's like I see it. I'm working on a project right now. It's this thing I'm working on because I've collected so much knowledge about myself, and I work with clients to help them understand this through these different systems. But I have a pretty good level of awareness about a lot of systems, and it still just blows my mind how it always comes back to the same thing. It's like, this will be your challenge. This is what, and I'm going to try to find more because I'm like, I don't want it to be this. Can it be something else? Why is it this? Why is it this? And then it's always like, no, this is it. And then I look at other people I know, and it's so specific to them. And then people say, well, if you read this, it could apply to anyone. I said, no, I'm going to look at your stuff. And if I read that, it has nothing to do with this person. It's very
Yeah.
unique.
Isn't it funny how sometimes that, like, when you get the same thing from different, so like, let's say somebody's looking at your palm and they're telling you something, and then somebody does your numbers and
Yep.
your numerologically, it's reinforcing it. And then somebody does your, your gene keys, whatever, and it's always the same, which is beautiful and profound. But sometimes I catch myself being like, oh, they all say that. But it's more like, oh, they tell that to they must say that to everybody because they just keep saying it to me,
But it's not like general, like
Yeah.
it's specific. And so what it feels like is that we're at a moment in time that has really been, sometimes I'm like, is this just my ego, or people I hang out with's ego, or we'd like to think we're more connected, so we're all thinking it's something. But again, I explore systems out so far and so many, and there's just so many major cycles. Like we're talking thousands and thousands of years, like eons, that are all concluding at the same moment across time and cultures and eras. And there's just things happening that with the introduction of when artificial intelligence emerged, and what was also happening astrologically, and then what happened immediately after the quantum computer is turned on, right? David Palmer, the Leo King, talks about this. Look at what, like, did something come and introduce itself into our field at a moment, and then now we're having like this, like a machine, a system kind of changing, turning on, activating. When you were describing your book, this reminds me, I started a company back in 2015, 2016. It was all about moving energy through the body, through the 7 chakras, the energy centers. The first tagline I had was raising the frequency 1 chakra at a time. And I had feedback from people saying, what are you talking about? They're like, what in the hell? Like my friends being like, I put it on like a flyer for an event I was doing in Los Angeles. I said, that makes no sense. I said, no, like, can't you feel like the frequency, like we're raising the frequency, like we're changing? And people are like, what are you speaking? Like, this makes no sense. So then I changed the tagline to be, the music is the medicine. Because that's what people could understand, was like there was this music, and it was custom music created to activate the frequencies that are held and identified within each of the energy centers. And the idea was just to like move some of the stagnant energy and rebalance energy so that you could hold the field better. You could be more in your body and not as affected, like you said, yanked around at the mouth or the throat. It's like you're not just getting your attention ripped around, and thousands of other benefits. And so earlier this year, I thought there's a lot of really good information in here. And it's just, there's not teacher trainings anymore. I'm not doing events. There's not a studio anymore. It's like, that's all kind of settled down. And it was this year, it was the last 6 months. I said, I'm going to put this into a book and just kind of change it. It's not a teacher training. I'll just have it for people, because we're at a collective level of awareness where I feel a lot of people could pick this up off the shelf and understand what was being said. And it's called Human in the Machine Age, a blueprint for reconnecting with your body's wisdom, because you just go through it and it's in 7 sections. And it comes with digital assets. There's music that you listen to, and then you move your body. And then there's journaling. I think there's 40 or 70, I can't remember, journaling prompts in it. And so it's kind of interesting, these things that we sort of collect along the way and build.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I've thought, geez, that didn't really live out what it was supposed to do or what I wanted it to do. And now, people can understand it now, and not just this super niche level of women who are like, let's raise the frequency. People are like, what are you saying? So I just feel it's important, books like yours, where you're describing, for people who don't know, they hear the words vibration, frequency, consciousness. When you're first starting out, that's really important, because it does seem so intangible sometimes. And then to have hey, this is what it means for me. And then also go out and see if that's your experience, or do some more research. It's not about telling people I have the answer or you have the answer, or, this is the way. It's more just get curious. We need more critical thinking more than ever. And it feels urgent. It feels now, at the retreat this weekend, speaking with the men, women need you now. We need you now. And then when men are able to activate other men, and because I think there are a lot of men doing the work and on the path, but I think that most people, including men, I've talked to a lot of them, would say women started kind of doing the work, right? Which kind of happens. Women kind of energetically, we open up, and then hopefully there's a really stabilizing force, a masculine energy that can kind of ground that energy. And then there's boundaries there. It's not women are better than men, men are better than women. It's just, that is kind of how things work. Women are the void. Women are holding the field. Think about our bodies even. We hold the base, and then the masculine comes in, the egg chooses the sperm, and then it's a dance. And pretty soon it's moving and it's co-creating. But the woman is the void, the female, the feminine is that. And we're just in this space where I think a lot of men have been activated, and they've been moving with, in response to these big changes that are happening in really rapid succession. And now we need more, a lot more. This week, I just felt so deeply this was this huge, red fucking alert. If you are not paying attention, yippee-ki-yo, let's fucking go. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time now. You don't need another book. You don't need another class. We're adults. It's time to get our shit together and start figuring out how to hold the field in your own life. You don't need to start a podcast. You don't need to go try to explore sacred geometry in your mind. You just need to figure out how to be an activated human in this world, recognize what's going on, recognize that there are red fire alerts happening everywhere, and all the volunteer firefighters need to get together. And volunteer firefighters are organized. They work together. Do not panic. They are able to put out fires where needed and start to calm people down, and then bring other people in to say, hey, this is how you help. A lot of stuff is going wrong. This is what is helpful. This is what is not helpful. This is how you protect your psyche. Become aware that artificial intelligence and these social media machines are meant to steal your attention and life force. And that is not me being woo-woo. I have worked in tech for over 15 years. This is actually a money-making thing. Moment you're on there is another moment, another percentage of your money that will, not maybe, that will be taken eventually to purchase something. Facts. So we have it's now we have to just kind of stop this. It's human in the machine age. We have to wake up to it is a spiritual, non-tangible thing that is happening. And whether you go to church and read the Bible, whether you meditate on your own, whether you go to a temple, or you have your hands in the land and you're working with the land, or you're a mom raising children, or you're somebody who works on people's cars, or you're a person who collects the trash in the morning, or you're a professor, it's what can you do to help hold the field? How can you be more self-reflective and not just listen to what's easy to listen to, the media, right? Have our own thoughts, experience our own feelings, and try to come up with what that might be without immediately running to Chat GPT to go, I had a feeling, I had this, what is it? We
Yes.
can use it as a tool, but like we have to come back to us to gain any semblance of balance and peace, like in the realm that we're existing in right now.
You said so much there that is so important. And I love, even because I know you have this technology background. And of course, I come from technology and now it's been a while since I've been in the field, but it's, in some ways, we're in a really exciting time, even in terms of the opportunity that we have from a soul perspective. I think we all chose to come here, even though that can be really hard to believe, especially in the times that we're in. Like, nope, no, there is no way I wanted to be part of this. But we are like on the leading edge of something for all the reasons that you mentioned, all across the cosmos. There are all of these indicators of the old closing down and the new beginning. And I think it is poignant, kind of going back to where we started the conversation with the last few days and with Charlie Kirk and how intense it has been. The way that I perceive the world and current events is that I do believe that we're in a massive illusion, and it's a construction, and it is an inversion of the bigger reality. And the siphoning that you've talked about, it is this control mechanism, and it is designed for a very, very few at the expense of many. And there are a lot of whistleblowers and mystics and all kinds of different perspectives about that, but a lot of times it does come back to that. And I've heard some very convincing arguments, and then I've also been living in this world for 47 years, so I've had my own experiences of that and what that's like as a human being. But for the things that have been going on globally this year, the last couple of years, everything in the Middle East, for instance, and it feels like the Charlie Kirk thing was such a huge swing in terms of we're like from those very few people who are losing the control that they have had for eons. They have had this control for longer than our imaginations can stretch. And they're losing it because of all of the reasons that you talked about. It's by design. There's nothing that they can do. So it felt like to me this huge swing, and and everything going on in the Middle East feels as well. It's so in your face. Earlier you talked about, I thought it would be more of a trickle. And that's kind of how things have happened, to where we don't notice it. Things have happened so slowly that we give up a little bit of our freedom here, a little bit of our freedom there, and we justify it. And we even ask for it, after 9/11 is, please, yes, we'll take off our shoes, anything to not have that happen again. What can I do to make sure that that never happens again? We give up so many freedoms. Oh yeah, you should be tracking my phone calls because, whatever it is. But yes, because we have this enemy, I'm terrified of it. And so please take all of my freedom because of that. Then there might be things that people want to look into related to that. But it has been kind of a trickle, where there's a little bit and a little bit. And right now it just feels like they're just throwing everything at it. And Charlie was part of that. And in my opinion, and in some respects, it says a lot. It says a lot that they need to make such a huge swing and just aim for the fences or swing for the fences, bat for the fences, whatever that expression is, where it's just like, okay, we're already dealing with trying to parse through all of this information that doesn't make sense. Like all of this, what is happening in the world and how can this be? How can we be going through this in 2025? How can the government be turning their backs in this way? And it's so obvious. Like it just,
So obvious.
all systems point to what is really hard to fathom, but it's like that makes the most sense. It actually makes the most sense. There's no other explanation. So then when you have something like with Charlie Kirk, it's almost like, let's just do, from my perspective, and especially considering the technology that I can imagine that they have to do predictive analysis, I'm like, that it says a lot that with what everybody is going through and how fast people are awakening because of what we're seeing every day,
Yeah.
that they would do something like this, that then it's just like they're painting themselves in a corner, but they can't, but their back's against a wall. They don't have a choice. So they're just like, well, what if maybe they'll have a civil war because, and it's like, we're not falling for this anymore because
We're not falling for it. We're
doing
not
more.
falling for it.
Right.
And people listen. I mean, this, like, amen, everything you're saying. Yes, yes, yes. Keep preaching. Sunday, I'd come to church and listen. Like, yes. And for people listening who hear they, well, who are they? Who are they? That, I believe at this point, doesn't matter
Right.
right now. We just have to get to a point where people feel and trust in themselves that there is something, some frequency, entity, group of people, who knows, something from far away, something that's not even here on earth, something is really harvesting a lot of energy from this turmoil. And we certainly are not reaping the benefits. And I've talked about this before. I think an episode, Mysticism versus the Machines, it's episode 20 or 21. It's a solo cast. But energy, when we exert energy, it goes somewhere, it does something, and it is used for some purpose. It is applied to some purpose. That is without exception. And so we have to think about all of the intense energy leaving people's bodies and leaving their minds and pulling focus towards something very dark and heavy and soul crushing. Who and how and what is using that energy and for what? So when Kara talks about they, if your mind starts to go to, well, who are you blaming? It's who is they? That's a conspiracy. Just stop for a moment. Forget who. People smarter than me are tracking that down right now. Trust. I follow some of them, and they are, like Kara said, putting together cases for things that make a lot of fucking sense versus nobody's out to get you. Don't look for anything. It's just a coincidence. I'm going to look for what's happening because I think critically for myself. It doesn't mean I have the answer. It means that I'm open to it. And so for right now, probably where we are as a collective, and just me, I'm starting to have ideas about what they is, and they sound, when I say them out loud to myself, I'm like, that sounds a little bit crazy, but what would that's actually the least crazy thing it could be. That actually makes the most sense. If I'm walking down the street and I trip and I turn around and go, what happened? And there's a fire hydrant there, and my knee is bruised right at the point where the fire hydrant is, I probably tripped over the fire hydrant. I probably did not see it. I don't know how that happened, but that's sort of where we're at, where so many things converge and there's so much smoke and mirrors that when you hold the field and you sit back and you start watching, you go, the shortest distance between A to B is this. And then that happens over and over and over and over and over again. And pretty, you go, I tripped over a fire. There's a fire hydrant. We should all notice that there's a fire hydrant here. And then we can attend to what do we need to do about that fire hydrant, or how do we need to adjust our path? And we're at that point. And so I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you're bringing this up. And I think we're now in an environment, I think now the field has been so exploded with, I have wondered about in this past week if there was some sort of frequency blast. And the reason I say that is because 5 to 6 hours before the incident with Charlie, I was sitting right here at this desk in a perfectly normal mood, feeling really good, sunlight coming in. I have a good life. Things are great, well nourished, well slept, water, coffee. And I'm finished an email and I go to drink my coffee and I have a flash feeling, vision is all I know how to explain it as. And it was horrifically disturbing. And I saw someone in my family who is young, and I saw something was wrong with their neck, and they were deceased, and there was no bringing them back. And then I see blood everywhere, and I see another family member who is the mother of that person screaming in horror. And me, how I pick up energy with clients, I can feel things. And what ripped through me was the highest level of horror, shock, trauma. My body felt like it was exploding. And I stood up from my desk and I was like, what the? I was like going like this. And I thought, in my line of work, I deal with a lot of clients. I thought maybe I've picked up an energy. I don't watch scary movies. I don't take in anything that shows me anything graphic. I do not watch anything like that. And I did a little energy clearing. I said, this is not mine. I don't know what, like, take this away. Like, it's like, these aren't thoughts I have. And I sat down and I had just a pounding headache, and I don't get those. I mean, my head was throbbing and I was like, what is going on? And then I thought, what if this person is actually in danger? Oh, what if I'm getting so I immediately,
Premonition.
yes, I thought this was so horrific and crazy and I was like, this wouldn't happen. Like, and I immediately contacted the mother of that person, and I stayed calm. I didn't want to alarm them, but I said, hey, I want to let you know I had a little bit of a disturbing feeling about this child. Can you keep a close eye on them today? Something with the throat, something in their throat, and maybe just an accident. They said, oh, of course. They know that I sometimes have thoughts and feelings that come earlier than how they present in the world. And those next hours, I felt like shit. My body was like, I got hit with something, and I actually kept checking on, are you still watching them? I thought, I will never forgive myself if I am not giving every ounce of alert to this mom. And then the news came in, and the mother called me and said, it wasn't her, the child. She said it was him. And I just said, oh my God. That was the neck and the blood. And so I had experienced Charlie's mom, Charlie's wife. I had to do a lot of clearing to get the thing out of whatever this energy was in my head. And I told the group I was with this weekend, I said, I wonder if they, doesn't matter, something, whatever is happening to pull our focus to this so that we're spending this energy doing this. I think this is a productive way to spend it. But it's being spent in a non-productive way for a lot of people. I wonder if something happened where a pre-frequency was sent. And some of us have certain things where we pick it up early. It felt predestined. It felt planned. It felt like this is where we're putting the attention now. And it created horror, and it distracted me. And I wonder if that added to me a feeling of, why did that come in? Why did that happen? All I know is my experience. And I know that it pulled me physically, mentally, emotionally off target from the things I'm meant to do in the world for over, let's call it 36 hours. I had a retreat. I almost thought about not going. I contacted the facilitator and said, I am not in a good position. I've been physically hit, sort of. And they said, come see how you feel. I went and realized that was actually the best place to be, and those symptoms were relieved. It's important that people know that, you know, whether you're having experiences like this or not, there are many, 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 there's thousands, if not more. I mean, I don't know the number of people like Kara and myself and the people I interact with who are in all different types of field. All different types of people are coming to similar conclusions and having experiences that sort of rhyme. And it's like, there's crazy people out there, and I'm not afraid to say there are lunatics out there, but I'm not one of them. And I've got enough indicators in my life to let me know that I'm actually someone operating at a pretty good level, and I'm pretty stable and steady in that. And if I'm starting to go, and I have been for a while, something's not right. I smell smoke. It's kind of weird. And I'm checked around, and I think we should look into this more. And you're doing that. It's time for everyone to start doing that. And this week, I feel it so deeply, and millions of people feel it and are talking about it online and everywhere, in person. We're up against something and we don't know what it is. And it could be biblical, it could be spiritual, it could be technology, it could be something we don't even know. We don't know. It could be a nation state, it could be a group of people, it could be a system that benefits, it could be something under the earth. I have no idea. I'm just, who knows? It's just time for us who live here to come together and go, hey, let's kind of, I forget that saying, but like, batch down the fort or hatch down, like, let's hunker down for
Circle
a second.
the wagons. Yeah.
Wagons. Let's just turn off the distraction and come together and put our heads and hearts together and hold the field so that we can have enough awareness, spatial, energetic, whatever, to begin emerging from something that does not feel good and does not feel like it's actually the field's being disturbed. Let's try to figure out what is disturbing our field, or let's just clear it. Maybe we won't ever identify it, but let's clear the field of the disturbance so that we're not miserable and all trying to not freak out all the time.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And I thank you so much for that clarification about, like, it really doesn't matter exactly what you said. It doesn't matter who they is. And we might not know what the end game is, but if we are noticing the patterns and if we're recognizing, like, okay, so if that's true, if there is this siphoning of energy, if I'm contributing to that and it's going toward oppression and suppression, and I am actually also a victim of that, and everybody else is a victim of that, and we want to be liberated, we want sovereignty, we want to live not in an inverted reality, we want to live in a true reality. And so knowing enough to know, okay, well, if the end game is less power for the people, but they don't realize that that's the case, and they think that they're free, but they really are confined to this tiny little box that we will say is reality. And these are the limitations, and they're actually much, much tinier than what the human is capable of. And we then take the life force and we utilize it for our own benefit. And they don't ever recognize that they could be more, that they are limitless, that they can be free, but we just keep them locked in without their consent, without their knowledge. If we recognize that as the end game, then we can start to really get to the real work, which is, how do I become sovereign? How do I really become liberated? And that all of us, the majority, all of the people that you're seeing in your everyday life, that you and many of those people we have let ourselves believe are the enemy, are not actually the enemy. No, the person on the opposing side of the political aisle is not actually the enemy. So not letting ourselves get pulled into it, because that is one of the ways that the energy is siphoned. You explained it so well, how our attention goes toward it and we give all this energy because we get so fired up. And then there's something in the background we don't even realize is happening that benefits from that. And it's not an agenda that we benefit from.
Yes, I'm so glad you kind of started into this and went there because this is so important. And now, sort of magically bow tying back to how we started, I'll let you give the big reveal. But this summit series that you've started is perfectly timed. You were planning this before what's happened this week. So tell us about your upcoming summit. How can people get involved or be a part of it? And what's the topic?
Yes, thank you. It's the Miracle Summit 2025. So as you said, I've been doing a series of summits. This is the fourth one that I've held, and it started with a Miracle Summit. So last year was the first one. And then I did a Reaching Through the Veils, which was more around psychic phenomenon and developing those skills. And then there was the Galactics, and now we're doing the Miracle Summit. And Aubrey is going to be a speaker. So I'm so
Yay!
excited about that. We're still fleshing out all the details. Amazing speakers. Amanda Romania, Eva Mueller, Julie Ryan, let's see, Baba Sam Shelley. Anyway, these are really great. There are several, and I'm not getting all of them. I just created a bunch of the material yesterday. So I'm disappointed with myself that I'm not coming up with all the names off the top of my head. But this happens every time. So the way that this came to mind a year ago, I was just sitting at my kitchen table and I started to get this remembrance of being at slumber parties when I was growing up and talking about ghost stories and how as somebody would tell a ghost story and you'd get scared and then somebody else would tell another story and then you'd remember the story that you have or you start making up your own story and it's just like wildfire and before you know it everybody's got their ghost story and everybody's scared by everybody else's story and you're giggling and you're like getting in somebody else's sleeping bag and all of that but you all feel close and united because you're all scared together, right? And I don't know where that memory even came from, but I was like, thoughts catch on like wildfire. And so, that's a great example of how you can just be in a small group and that can happen. But we can do that in the other direction as well. And so, what happens when you start sharing stories of miracles or inspirational stories, or you start talking about the science of miracles or whatever it might be? So then I started thinking, what if a group of people got together and shared their perspective on miracles? And so it's a kind of a TED Talk style. So it's only like 20 minutes. Each speaker has a short time to go deep into their perspective. It's very broad in terms of, okay, the overarching theme is miracles, but for some people that means, okay, I want to bring an activation in. For another person, it's, oh, I want to share this story. For another, it's some research that they want to share. And all of that, though, under the same theme, with everybody kind of bringing their own signature to it. Because, of course, the important thing is the energy that's being carried on the voice. So it really, we get inspired through the words and our minds need the words. But the really important thing is everybody coming together and everybody accessing that within them. So the speakers and the people who are part of it, our memories get activated, but the cellular memory, the frequency within us gets activated. And that's the important thing. And so it helps us to reach back through time because even if you're hearing me talk about this and you're like, well, I've never experienced a miracle or I can't even remember any miracle stories. You get in this energy and you will start remembering. And what was so cool is when I had this last year, I was getting emails from people and I never really verbalized it publicly about that part of it, but I was like, it will ignite the memories and then it will open the field for the future. And I had people emailing me and going, this made me think about it. Like 50 years ago, I was on this country road and my car broke down and this mysterious person showed up and helped me with it. And there was this other person that was nearby that was dangerous and all this. But they were like, I haven't thought about that in decades. Like I completely forgot about that. But through that experience, it ignited that memory. So we're doing this on December 6th, right in the heart of the holidays. So everybody who participates, then their energy this miracles vibe, this miracles frequency.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go and have their holiday time with friends and family for the season. And that will be rippling out from them because we
Mm.
radiate our energy. Every interaction that we have, we are radiating at a much subtler level than just what it comes up through our words or the body language that we have. We are communicating at the cellular level, at the frequency level. And so, with everybody kind of holding that within their field as they then go out and they're not even thinking about the summit anymore. It's Christmas dinner and you're dealing with in-laws or you're dealing with, the cousins you don't have to deal with very much and whatever it might be, but it's there helping with
It's
your field.
there. So important. And the timing is just so impeccable with what's just happened. The world needs to feel like a miracle can happen, and it can, and it is happening.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, it backfired. Plan did not work.
Right.
And
Yeah.
now there's the upswelling, and people really want to continue feeling that and moving in that. Interstellar Object 3 Atlas will be passing by at these moments. And regardless of what it is, right? Regardless of what is passing through, it would be helpful if the energy is better, regardless of a
Wow.
full or a non-helpful thing that's coming by or a neutral thing. And so I'm so excited for you to share about that. What perfect timing, and the ripple effect you're creating by following what you feel, and the ripple effect that can happen from everyone who's just following what they feel, little things throughout the day. And so I'll share information in the show notes, and that's free to attend. There'll also be a paid tier. And when you do that tier, there's actually courses and resources and gifts from the speakers that you normally would have to pay for that are included in that bundle. It's a very low cost. And so I'll be sharing more about that, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And I'm just very grateful for you, Kara, to be here today. And I didn't even get a chance to say this in the beginning, but you guys, Kara is the host of Soul Elevation, and it is a top 2% podcast globally across all genres. That is not easy to hit that feat. You've published over 500 episodes, and you're a really great resource. There's just a lot to learn about. We didn't even get into the sacred geometry, which I was really excited to talk about today. We'll have to do that another time, but Kara's writing a book on that and does workshops, being able to use the technology or the instance of sacred geometry to tap into things. But you guys check out her podcast, Soul Elevation. And Kara, is there anything else you want to share or let people know about?
Well, I'm so grateful to be connected with you. Like you said already, we had an amazing introductory meeting, and just listening to your content is inspiring and uplifting. And I'm grateful to be connected with you. And I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing to answer your call and to honor your mission. And I know that it's not always easy, and kind of being on the leading edge of a lot of this is that can be really difficult, but you're doing amazing work. And I know that
Thank you.
sometimes we take these things and we have to internalize them because that's part of the role. But thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody who's listening for all that you guys are doing to just hold the field. Just keep going.
I will leave it at that. I love that. Hold the field. Okay. Take care, you guys. Talk soon. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay immersed in the infinite drop.